Greetings all, and welcome to another Tale of Woe. I'm your storyteller Tim, and today we'll be continuing the tale of the beginning. In the previous episode, the group had managed to fight their way completely through and against a forest, finding the creature that was corrupting the heart of this forest, vanquishing their foe, and retrieving the first of the three artifacts that they required to complete the Deus Ex, which was the Mount of Avandra, which will henceforth be named Ava, which is what the group managed to call it. Setting their coordinates for the next location, the group found themselves teleporting into what I described as a stone forest. Essentially, it was a large enclosed canyon wall, but as far as they could see, right up until the wall, there were like different pillars, so it looked like it had been like a forest, like basically a forest that someone had created out of stone, but where there would be trees, there are large pillars of rock, and these are just dotted everywhere. And there is a distinct path going north and south. Looking at their the world engine, it indicated to them that they needed to go northward to head towards the artifact that they were looking for in this specific location, and so off they went. And this is where I began to refine my love of the random tables, because I discovered a D100 table for random encounters, which I modified for this campaign. The idea was that if they were going to be wandering around the wilderness on journeys, because the world had been devastated in the last 3 years, they had been stuck inside the spaceship, that giving random encounters on this D100 table would help them to discover different aspects of the world, and to find out more about what had happened to the world in their absence. And so, since they had a bit of a ways to travel, I decided to roll on this table, and the item that I rolled up fit pretty damn well into the events that were going to, or what they were going to find at the end of this valley, and I'll read it as such. You hear the sound of human voices shouting in panic as you see a speck off in the distance. As it gets closer, you see it is a group of humans on a magic carpet that appear to be throwing objects over the side in a panic. Their panic becomes clear as out of the clouds a massive dragon swoops out and barely misses them. They fly directly overhead of you, and you see them throwing coins off the carpet and screaming in panic they need to lose more weight. They fly off into the distance with the dragon in pursuit. Now, what the party didn't know is that at the end of this valley was going to be a dragon's cave, a dragon's hoard. And the dragon was going to have one of the items that they required within their hoard. And so rolling up this item on the table just added more flavor to the events that were to occur. Is that someone else had managed to, well had raided the horde, and the dragon was pissed. So this was going to give them, if they decided just to head on down, they would actually have some time in the horde without the dragon there, or they could potentially help out. They could fight the dragon out in the open, or chase the dragon back with these human allies. Those were the two options in my head, which I assumed would be the way that the group would go. But Selena, bless her, had other plans for how this encounter was going to go, and she had recently taken the feat Spell Sniper, which gave her Eldritch Blast, like a massive range to it. And so she goes, I roll to attack with Eldritch Blast. I said, okay. And she goes to attack and says, and I'm assuming looking up the AC of the dragon. She goes, I'm rolling to attack the guys on the carpet. I'm like, what? He says, yeah, I'm rolling to attack the guys on the carpet. I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, okay, it's a small target. They're at a distance. Working out some mods. And I'm thinking, all right, you got to get at least maybe a 22 to hit. Just really just using. It would be more difficult to hit them than it would be to hit the dragon. But boom, hits them. No worries. All 3 shots just starts firing. And she brings them down. She brings down all of the NPCs on the carpet, and the carpet falls out of the sky, and the dragon swoops down and begins to gather up its horde. And I say to them that after a while they see the dragon holding the magic carpet, which appears to have like coins within it, and it's scouring the ground. And she shouts up, "Hail to you, mighty dragon!" I'm like, oh crap. And so she, having the high charisma ability, being the warlock that she was, managed to enter into negotiations with the dragon. The dragon comes swooping down and he goes, "Who dares to address me as so? Yes, you are certainly tasty little morsels with a lot of audacity to address a mighty dragon such as I." And she bows down and goes, "Oh, you are indeed, Lord," and proceeds to explain the situation, that they think that there may be something within, that the dragon may have something that they require. And he goes, "Ah, so more thieves." And she's like, No, we're not thieves. Is there anything we could do to earn this particular item? We don't know what it is that we're looking for, but we think there's something in your hoard that we require. Will you be willing to allow us to look through?" And they told the story about the Tarrasque and everything that was going on, and the whole thing, the dragon being appealing to the dragon's sense of self-preservation, that if there isn't any world left there to hoard, then what is the point of having all these things? Who can look upon the majesty of such a great creature and feed a great creature if this other creature has eaten everything in the entire world? And the dragon looks at her and just goes, "Okay, there is something you can do for me. At the other end of the valley there lies castle or a fortress that have been giving me problems. If you can remove this problem, you may select one item from my hoard. But that is if you survive. Now go out of my sight." And while this was going on, a few of the other party members gathered up some of the coins, and they offered the coins back to the dragon, which it snatched up, and it off it went back to its hoard. And so the party goes, "Right, other way we go." And so they begin making their way back to the other end of the valley. Now I had planned for the other end of this valley as well, using one of my favorite books, The Tale from the Yawning Portal, specifically the adventure called Against the Giants. Just find it here. I've got it bookmark, but without a very strong bookmark. Bear with me. Nearly there. Turning. There we go. Against the Giants. This adventure is, to be honest, I've never actually read all the way through it. I primarily used it just for the setting and the map. The idea is that you're going in there to... it's a sneaking mission to go in, because what you need to fight in there is absolutely ridiculous. However, what I did was I modified the whole thing to fit this specific scenario. The idea was that the dragon had already made a deal with one set of the giants. The place is a hill giant fortress, and the dragon had made a deal with a group of frost giants that were heading to this place. The background was that the giants had decided, or at least some of the giants had decided, that they wanted to band together because the world was coming to an end, everything was going to shit, and so they needed to consolidate their forces, finding that the different kingdoms, the hill giants, the storm giants, the cloud giants, the ice giants, all the different fire giants, all of the giant kind needed to come together and form an alliance to basically survive the coming apocalypse, because the gods were gone, they couldn't communicate with them, the Tarrasque was loose, so banding together seemed to be the better option. However, the dragon had intercepted the ice giants on their way through to meet with the other members of giant kind that were meeting for this big what's the word I'm looking for? Conference, negotiations, a big negotiation, a big parley. So it was going to be a big feast, and the giants were going to talk about and negotiate a treaty, essentially. And the dragon knew that if the giants joined together, then it would not be able to deal with the might of all of the giants together, and it didn't want to have to move its horde. And so it infiltrated the ice giants and offered its whatever they wanted, just complete control over all of the other houses if they can take care of everything else, and just trick them into doing its dirty work. And the dragon had no intention of keeping its deal. It also had no intention of keeping its deal with the party, but they didn't know that either. And so before the party had gotten there, a massive battle had taken place inside this fortress, and all of the members of the other houses had been caught completely unawares by the ice giants at dinner, and a massive fight had ensued. And the remaining few giants, which was still a substantial amount of giants, had barricaded themselves inside this fortress, inside the dining hall, I should say, inside the Great Hall. And the ice giants were patrolling the halls, making sure that there was no way for them to escape, and were just biding their time and getting ready to slaughter the rest of the giants. And then the party showed up, and they sneak their way into this place as pretty stealthily, finding that this is pretty unusual, all these massive doors and everything else, and finding the halls filled with ice giants in different rooms. And they manage to, one at a time, all their abilities, they take out these giants. They had a lot of fun dealing with, there's an ice giant, I think it's an ice giant Eternal, or an Immortal, one of those ones. It's an ice giant that has multiple heads, and you can only to kill it. You've actually got to lop off its heads while it's on the ground. If at least one of its heads is still active, I believe that's what it is. At least one of its heads is active. When it hits the ground, it just pings back up with one hit point. It's almost impossible to kill unless you decapitate it. Which they didn't. They did eventually work that out, but having to just keep hacking this thing is you ping up with one hit point, ping down, took them about, I think it was probably maybe 3 or 4 rounds before they worked out that they needed to actually take the heads off this thing in order to stop it from pinging back up. But they did get there in the end. One of the disadvantages they had is they had the ability to comprehend languages with Selena, but they didn't have the ability to speak. They didn't have tongues, so they couldn't communicate with the giants. And there was a few. Actually, I'll show you the interior map of this place. So this is the interior of the fortress, and there's the Great Hall, which was barricaded. But this little area here, this room here, They found the voices that were like whispering and whimpering. And this was where I was going to give them the opportunity to work out what was actually going on, potentially grab a hold of, realize that they'd been duped into taking out these giants. The giants potentially were going to team up with them, and they were going to lay siege to the Dragon's Den together. But unfortunately, they didn't work out what was going on. I don't think they still know to this day. I'm not even sure I actually told them what was actually happening. So if you're watching, guys, this is what was going on. So inside that room, it's actually a nursery. It's where all of the kid giants are, and a maid, the nursemaid was protecting them all huddling. And there was potential for them to sneak in and to realize that, hang on, these are just scared kids, what's going on here? But they never actually, they heard the noises going into the room, and they heard, with the comprehend languages, be told, go away, leave us alone, we don't want to fight. But that was all they were able to get out of that room. So, being unable to stop them from going all murder hobo, they proceeded into the main hall. Now they couldn't get their way into the front door because it was barricaded up, but there are two other entrances, and they cleared out most of the rest of the place. And this is when they found everyone, like all of the giants, hiding in the main hall. Nuru, being the stealthy self that she was, she actually managed to sneak all the way back around to the main door and managed to find a way to get underneath the door. So she squeezed herself under the door and was inside the room and saw all the giants waiting with weapons prepared. The tables had been overturned. There were bodies everywhere. And I'll read to you what the equivalent of what she found in there. Because in the Great Hall, because I used the people that were actually dining in the hall as the basis for all the people that were actually in the hall when this occurred. So there was a frost giant. He's obviously no longer there. There is a hill giant, a polar bear, a stone giant, a cloud giant, another stone giant, 7 hill giants as guards, and 6 giant servants, which use the ogre statistics, and an additional 8 ogres. So 14 ogres. What do we got here? 8 hill giants, 2 stone giants, a polar bear, and a cloud giant was waiting for them inside the hall. Now, I stated that you saw a lot of blood, and actually all of the ogres had actually been slain. All the serving staff had been killed. So it was just the giants that they were dealing with. So I had mercy on them in that point, because the idea was that there had been a fight that had occurred before they got there, and this was the aftermath, and it is their dealing with what was the aftermath of the betrayal of at the negotiation table. And so when Nuru was sneaking in, she saw that there was the large wooden bar that was barricading it, and she wanted to let the group into the room. Because they weren't able to sneak into the room. I don't really remember why, but she wandered off on her own doing her rogue thing. And so she did very well in her stealth checks until she leapt up onto the door and tried to remove the bar, and she got spotted. And the fight was immediately on. And it was, at the beginning, quite a shit show. But I will say this. Thank God for Selena, because that character saved the party. Her and her Staff of Power. Using, I think, what became her favorite ability of the Staff of Power, the Wall of Force. What they did is, once they got into the room, finding that the giants were able to hit them with their weapons, she created the Wall of Force and literally put a roof over their heads. So they could attack the giants' feet with ranged weaponry, but the giants couldn't get in low enough to attack them. And so they're wailing on this wall of force and reaching under, trying to get this. They're literally hiding underneath a transparent table, and the giants are trying to get them, and they're firing all their weapons. They're bowing, arrowing. You've got Nuru with her laser gauntlet, and Give is leaping out and whacking with the sword, and Wallflower's doing all her business, and they were pretty well safe, except for one of them. I believe it's the Cloud Giant, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the Cloud Giant. The Cloud Giant has all the magical abilities and had the ability of telekinesis, so was able to drag them out one at a time. And so pulled out Wallflower, who just got pinated by the other giants and was nearly killed, if not for again, the quick thinking of Selena breaking the concentration and being able to use her own telekinesis ability to pull her back out under the cover. So the fight went incredibly badly to begin with, but once more, I underestimated these guys. They completely obliterated every single one of those giants. One of the giants, however, realizing that the fight was going very badly, one of the hill giants, he actually breaks out, removes the section from the door, and one of the rooms that they hadn't gone to yet was actually the courtyard, which is where they keep all of the dire wolves, which the giants use for hunting hounds. He runs out of the hall through here, goes all the way up to here. They see him as he runs past this point here. He gets to the door, he opens the door, they see him, shoot him in the back, they kill him just as he opens the door, and the dire wolves are unleashed. Whoop, focus. And so once the dire wolves release, the fight is on once more. But at this stage, they'd had enough of all this crap, so using their flying abilities, they jumped up into the rafters and just sniped all the wolves out from the ground. And they just completely obliterated all of that place. They just completely wrecked the entire Hill Giant fortress, which was unexpected and a little bit sad because these people weren't actually they weren't bad guys. They were actually just innocent bystanders in all of this, and the dragon just told them to go kill them. So what are you going to do? So, having completed their murderous rampage, they rested up for a while. And they actually spent quite a bit of time after the fight. I think they spent like another day, like at least 24 hours within the fortress itself, just clearing out the rooms and looting everything, just finding various magic items. They actually found an item that I thought was quite hilarious. It was a cursed magical item, which I called the Shield of Sir Robin, based on Sir Robin from Monty Python's Holy Grail. The idea was that this was a cursed, cowardly magic shield that an animated shield. It was, sorry. So when you had the shield, as soon as a fight began, it would immediately make sure that it was on the opposite side of wherever the fight was. So you would count as being equipped with a shield. You couldn't take another shield, but you couldn't get the bonus of the shield unless someone was attacking you from behind. But even then, it was a 50-50 shot as to whether or not the shield would actually be on the correct side, because it just didn't want to get hit. It was the cowardly shield of Sir Robin. And yeah, the party got rid of that item pretty fucking quick, I can tell you that much. But I thought it was funny. Anyway, so after the massacre at the Hill Giant stronghold, they began to make their way back to the Dragon's Lair. And what I'd done as well is that one thing I remember from when telling stories about villains, and I believe it was actually Richard Garriott, the guy, or Sir Richard Garriott, I should say, the great man who created the Ultima series, is that whenever you have a villain, or at least an arch-villain, it really doesn't make sense that the arch-villain will be just sitting in his castle going, yes, and just wait for the villains, waiting for the heroes to come and stop him. He should be acting actively showing up in the story. And taking that to heart, I knew that Moloch would know what it was that they were going for, because he was scrying on them this entire time, monitoring them and making sure that they were not going to ruin his plans. But he had plans for them, and he needed them to come to him. And because he knew of the items that they were looking for, and that he knew that the dragon had it, while they were busy dealing with the dragon, he went and dealt. While they were busy dealing with the giants, Moloch went and dealt with the dragon and took what it was that they were looking for. And so when the party gets back to the dragon's lair, they find the place has been completely in shambles. There is scorch marks, and they can smell brimstone and all sorts of craziness going on there. And in the center of the dragon's lair, they see the dragon, what they think is the dragon sleeping, but the dragon is dead. And when they approach the dragon, emerging from behind the dragon are two constructs that are very familiar to them. These were the security robots that they had dealt with on the Equinox. And they thought, okay, that's strange. Why are they here? And as soon as they see them, it goes, Grand Duke Moloch sends his regards, and begins to attack them. And so they fight, and they take out these constructs, and these constructs are not as tough as the ones that they've encountered before, but they are a lot more vicious. They've got spiked flails, and if they defeat them, it goes, I'll see you soon, ha 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 ha, and then explodes, causing miniature fireball damage if anyone kills them. And so they take out the two constructs, and they realize, fuck, now we've got to go deal with Moloch. And the one thing that they didn't do, which they would have, if they had have bothered to check the world engine while they were heading back to the Dragon's Den, they would have noticed that the spot indicating that the relic that they were seeking was no longer at the Dragon's Den. So they had been duped by a dragon, slaughtered an innocent leaders of several innocent giant tribes, and I say innocent, but you know what I mean, and been foiled once again by Grand Duke Moloch. And at this point, they decided, well, that's it. If he's going to be messing with us, we're going to have to go and mess with him now. And so they set their coordinates using the world engine and teleported to the island in which Moloch was waiting for them. And we'll discuss this in the next Tale of